What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Thursday edition of NFL Turf Talk. We are live here, as always, on DSM Media's Twitter channel. You can find us at DSM_media. Make sure to smash that follow button and check out the link tree in our bio. It'll take you to every other social media platform we are available on. If you guys want to be interactive with us throughout tonight's show or any of our live streams, make sure to check out the YouTube link specifically. It'll take you right to those three different pages. Make sure to smash that subscribe button, like the video, share it with your friends, family, any other sports fans, Philly sports fans, NFL fans, whatever you guys are into. Make sure to subscribe. I'm on half of your host, Dylan Davis. To my left, my faithful co-host, Scotty. Hope everyone had a very fun and Merry Christmas yesterday. New Year's is quickly approaching, my man, but we got some football to talk about. Two snorers yesterday, and just as the NBA is being talked about in a poor light and the ratings are down and they need to change, different rules to get fans' attentions, the NBA product blows the NFL product out of the fucking water.
Incredible.
Yesterday afternoon. So we're going to take a look at both of those games, give you guys our top 10 power rankings, take a quick look at our best bets tonight in the Seahawks Bears game. Martian, we were never not friends, brother.
That's exactly
don't even
what
worry
I was
about
say.
it. Your Christmas gift should be in the mail on the way to Canada right now. But my man, happy Thursday, Merry Christmas, and what is going on?
Happy Thursday, man. Yeah, I'm sending Martian some American maple syrup. I don't know if that's a good Canadian joke or not, man. That might be horrible, but I tried. I tried to get friendly with him, but no, man. We are certainly friends. You mentioned it though. What a snore fest yesterday. Outside of that Sixers W, right? I don't mean to bring up too much NBA, too much Sixers talk on here, but
I know.
Yeah.
It's all right though. We'll talk about it tomorrow. And I know Martian's getting reeled in. He's getting reeled in just like I got reeled in, just like you got reeled in.
Sir.
About Monday
Maxie's
show
back.
and everything I had to say about Joel and
Caleb's back.
I didn't mean that. I was just upset. I was just upset.
The Boston Strangler.
Yeah.
Caleb
That's
Martin.
why you signed Caleb Martin, Scotty.
We back. Yeah, that's right, Martian. We back. We are back. But no, let's talk some NFL. We don't need to let the NBA steal the show here as well. Another Christmas Day joke because the NFL games were just that bad. Where do you want to start, my man? Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the first game yesterday, or do you want to talk about Week 16 very quickly here? Did you have any takeaways?
I don't got much for you in Week 16. First of all, with the holiday mixed in and games being played to start this new week yesterday, Week 16 is like a blur to me now. Not to mention, I think the slate kind of played out exactly what we thought it was going to be. There was not too much or too many playoff implicating games, big matchups. The Eagles Commanders game that, the Eagles end up losing and getting upset in that game. We already talked about that on Monday. So there wasn't too much that really went on. And then you had Monday Night Football. The Packers beat the Saints by 200. Like none of it really seemed to matter. And then you get to yesterday and you're looking at these two big games to kick off Week 17. And I look at it just one very simple way, man. Two of these teams, the teams that lost are frauds, and the two teams that won could be on a collision course back in the AFC Championship. Now, I know that there's another team out west or out in the AFC, in Buffalo that might like a word about that conversation, but Lamar and the Ravens and Derrick Henry took it in Houston to CJ Stroud, 2 fucking points for that Houston Texans team. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers have had shot after shot after shot after shot to just win a ball game and secure the AFC North Division title. And now they trail the Baltimore Ravens by a game with 2 weeks to go because they can't beat a competent football team, over this 3-game losing streak. They have lost to the Eagles, the Ravens, and now the Kansas City Chiefs in embarrassing fashion. The two teams that won are 2 of the top 3 teams in the AFC. They showed that yesterday. And the 2 teams that lost that we kind of were hoping could jump into that upset conversation and give Mahomes a test, give Lamar a test in the AFC playoff picture. They just don't seem like they're going to be able to do that.
No, they don't have it. We can start with the Pittsburgh game, of course, with KC. You look at this game, man, and it just gets out of hand. By the second half, it's really rolling. You see Travis Kelce kind of wind the clock back in this one. This was a signature Patrick Mahomes game. He probably had one of his best games of the season in this one with three passing touchdowns, no interceptions, 320 yards. Very clean, and this is supposed to be one of the best defenses in the NFL. And I think that was the biggest disappointment for me yesterday. In Pittsburgh, it's a game you're already on a 2-game losing streak at that point. Yep. You've lost 3 out of your last 4. And you really just need a W for any type of confidence. And I think the worst thing about it, man, you know, we talk about George Pickens a lot and his attitude and how he looks on the football field. And man, when things aren't going right, you really just got to worry about what he is going to do on that sideline, man. How is he going to explode? How is he going to react to maybe not getting the football? There were a lot of different things that happened in that game, but I think that was the biggest disappointment to me was seeing him give up on routes in the game, basically just give up in the game and then complain about everything on the sideline.
And then go and interrupt the Kelce Mahomes interview eating thing and like dap him up and make it known like he came over to say what's up. Like, so yeah,
weird.
George Pickens is definitely he's definitely a person. He's definitely a wide receiver. I could tell you.
Good way to put that. Yeah.
But I agree, man. If I'm being honest, aside from the Steelers seeming very, very fraudulent, a team that I would put inside the top 5 or 6 of the NFL just a few short weeks ago have completely fallen from my graces. The good news for them when we get to power rankings is it's not like there's a ton of teams banging on the door for the playoffs, right? And they've already clinched a playoff spot at least, even if it's not for their division. So they're still grouped up there, but not, they're looked at a lot differently. The thing I came away with from this game, and as an Eagles fan, this pains me. And it has nothing to do with the Eagles. It has nothing to do with the loss. We've already talked about it. Like, no Jalen Hurts. It doesn't matter. I still believe that the Eagles are going to get to the Super Bowl and are going to win the Super Bowl. Like, my fandom believes that. But everything we were waiting to see with this Chiefs downfall, this down year, has just taken a complete 180. And now it's like, well, January's approaching and now everything's going back to normal. They're 15 and fucking 1. You just mentioned it. Like, Mahomes is starting ever since that crazy ankle injury he had. Mahomes has had his 2 best games of the season.
True.
Kelce, you mentioned it, winds back the clock, 84 yards, 8 receptions, a touchdown on Christmas Day. That defense is legit. Like, I came away from this game like they're gonna fucking three-peat. I don't know who is gonna beat that dude if it was all just a charade all year long. Because we kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, dude. They're 10-1, they're 11-1, they're 12-1, they're 13-1, but they're not playing good football. This team is like the 2023 Eagles. No, they're not.
Yeah.
No, they're just not.
It's really, to your point about like being a Birds fan and obviously the season that the Birds are having, I'm sure Lions fans feel the same. I'm sure maybe even Vikings fans feel like this could be the year that they could get to the Super Bowl.
Bills probably feel the same.
And maybe you can even like talk yourself into your favorite team possibly beating the Chiefs. Like, there is a world, like you said, as an Eagles fan, where Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Saquon Barkley go out there against the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's just too much, right? They're just too good. They can beat the Chiefs, and maybe Jalen has his best game of his career, right? Like, these are things that can happen. The Eagles are that good. There's other teams that are that good. But when it comes to, like, just laying your money down on the line and saying, like, for real, take all your fandom away, what is really stopping this team from winning a three-peat? And at the end of the day, as they get home field advantage throughout the postseason, they have a sturdy defense. The run game somehow, it's not better because Pacheco was a monster the last couple seasons, but you just feel like it could get better, right? As Mahomes starts to open up the offense a little bit more, Kelce starts to open it up a little bit more, that's when we'll see Pacheco start to look a little bit more normal. Maybe see Kareem Hunt, hit it off a little bit more. But the point is, it feels like they're just getting started right now. It feels like they're getting into prime position and prime shape right
remember
now,
what
and
I
that's
said
the
a few
scary
weeks
part, man.
ago about laying your money down? Like, it's going to take me a playoff game to decide what I'm thinking because we know not to bet against Patrick Mahomes, but with the way that they're playing, there's no way I'm laying my money on this team right now. That's all thrown out the window. And I don't necessarily disagree with Daniel. I can talk my way into a couple teams beating the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't think the Kansas City Chiefs entire resume this year, aside from the last 2 weeks, speaks volumes to this 15-1 record. And like they're the most dominant team in the National Football League. I think the Eagles, the Lions, but the injuries just keep happening, and the Vikings, Sam Darnold. So I don't know. And the thing when you bring up the Ravens is like, why handpick the Ravens? I'm not saying
Why
the
the
Ravens
Ravens?
can't beat them, but like out of all the teams we're talking about, like Lamar Jackson easily has the most question marks come playoff time, and the biggest, target on his back to get over.
To be fair,
are they?
They're getting going right now. It feels
They
like
are.
too, right? Like it feels like they're starting to roll a little bit. Derrick Henry is really starting to roll, and maybe that's the recipe come the postseason. Because Lamar, he did his thing on the ground yesterday, but he had under 200 passing yards. Derrick Henry had another monster game in a row, and it's getting into that cold weather season. So I get the idea, but at the same time, man, like I don't think the Ravens have this much better of a chance than say like the Buffalo Bills or even the Lions or the Eagles.
Neither do I. And here's why. If your talking point is, well, look at how the Ravens, were a toenail away from beating the Chiefs earlier in this year. I got news for you. The Chiefs' only loss is to the Buffalo Bills. So you're not the Ravens defense has been playing a lot better, and that's what Scotty and I, for weeks we're talking about is going to hold this team back and their passing defense more specifically. But it's just I don't want to use the word scary, man. It's more annoying. But in this game, DeAndre Hopkins has 2 receptions for 7 yards. They get Hollywood Brown makes his season debut. So now they went from a team that had no help, no threats at the receiver position. Travis Kelce was old and fading out to Travis Kelce looks a little bit more like himself. They're finding ways to get Xavier Worthy the ball more consistently game to game. They have Hollywood Brown now. They have DeAndre Hopkins. They have Juju. They have a couple different tight ends. The running backs get involved. Pacheco's back. It's like everything is just starting to come together for them.
Let me ask you this, man. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting here looking at the playoff picture, and what came to mind as you were talking there was that, but the Chiefs will have to go through the AFC. They will have to play like a Lamar, a Josh Allen. But
everyone has to go to Arrowhead with that because of that win.
When you look at the playoff picture, man, it's something I noticed. But does the NFC look tougher than the AFC? Like, I know the AFC has those 3 teams.
Yeah.
But after what we've seen from the Texans, the likes of the Steelers, you got Bo Nix and the Broncos, Justin Herbert, which fair enough, they're in the playoff picture, but we haven't seen much from Justin Herbert to say he's going to go out and be successful in the postseason. But then you go over to the NFC, you got wild card teams that could be the Vikings at 13-2, the Packers at 11-4, the Washington Commanders at 10-5. So like it's interesting to look at how these playoff pictures are shaping up. I know you got the likes of like the Falcons in there, and of course the Rams are 9-6, but the Rams they're not a team you're like begging to play in the postseason. You know what I mean? So it's interesting because I look at the AFC playoff picture and it's like, who let me ask you this, man. And I my power rankings may not even match this question, but
I know I does.
Rams or Steelers? Who is the harder competition? Who's the game that you would be more intimidated by?
It's tough, right? Because as an Eagles fan, we handled both of them.
Right. It's weird.
So I don't know.
But Matthew Stafford scares me more.
In theory, you say the Ravens, excuse me. In theory, you say the Steelers because they should have the defense.
The defense.
They should probably be able to run the ball a little bit better than just Kyren Williams, and the Rams can. That makes for playoff football. That wins playoff games. The Rams, you have Puka, you have Cooper Kupp, you do have Kyren, you have Stafford, McVay. They've won a Super Bowl a couple years ago. But at the same time, man, like if you're the Steelers, when are you going to show up and beat a team you should beat?
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at, honestly.
And I do, to Martian's point, he's not necessarily wrong. I wouldn't say I want to play the Ravens, but there are those question marks surrounding Lamar Jackson and this team. It come this time of year. You have the Houston Texans. Like, the Houston Texans are going to be the number 4 seed in the AFC, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, they're going to be the number 4 seed in the AFC. They're going to host a playoff game. We got to stop looking at them in this 2023 light.
Yeah, I agree.
CJ Stroud and this team and this offense just is not that. If you get held to 2 fucking points in your own house on Christmas Day against one of those top teams in your conference that we're talking about having to get through right now, you do not deserve to be in the conversation. The Steelers, the same thing, getting embarrassed at home, losing 3 straight. Then you get to the Chargers and the Broncos. Yeah, I do agree with you. You have the 3 teams, and then you get into memories. You get into names, and you get into legacies, right? When you talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers and you think about those teams more so, instead of talking about the Washington Commanders or the Green or Jordan Love, right?
Yeah.
But no, I do think the NFC definitely has more depth to it than the AFC picture does.
The Commanders, who I'm not like over the hill on, they look they look like they would beat the Texans in my eyes. Like, they look like they would beat. I would probably take them over the Denver Broncos.
Right. Because my question would be like, what would make me say no? CJ Stroud?
Right. To Jaden Daniels' credit, he looks better than CJ Stroud this year. Right. Like, I know there's film out there on CJ. It's not necessarily a fair comparison. We'll see what Jaden Daniels looks like in year 2. But year 1 right now, they look better. The Falcons are funny too, man, because I'm thinking about like the Falcons versus the Texans. But with Michael Penix Jr. I mean, he played all right the other day. But no, it is interesting when you look at it from that perspective, because I was going to say the Chiefs are going to have the much harder time out there in the AFC trying to battle their way to the Super Bowl. But to be fair and to be clear here, like, we are talking about the Vikings and Sam Darnold, and you may get to the postseason and maybe Sam Darnold looks like Sam Darnold has looked.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, maybe he isn't this 30 touchdown guy. And, similar to Case Keenum, right? The year we won the Super Bowl, beat them in the NFC Championship, Case Keenum had a complete meltdown in the postseason, right? And this happens from time to time. So take it with a grain of salt, of course. Like, do you trust Sam Darnold in the postseason, or do you trust Russell Wilson in the postseason? Right. So it's an interesting combo nonetheless. But the Texans I'm out on, man, to your point. I think
that's the most difficult thing for myself and for other people is separating our preconceived ideas and opinions of some of these teams and quarterbacks from a year ago compared to what's happening right now, right? You're sitting here and you're talking about the Washington Commanders, and they're new to the party, and Jaden Daniels is a rookie, and we're sitting here like, well, if you were in either conference, would you rather play the Commanders in the first round or the Texans? And you would probably have laughed at the start of the year. But right now, it's not that funny of a conversation. By the way, there's over 50 people in here right now. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure to check us out on YouTube and hit that subscribe button. It's the best and only spot to get your thoughts and questions pulled up here with us right now, man. But speaking of that Ravens-Texans game, I think we kind of, in a way, talked about it without talking about it.
Yeah.
The Houston Texans they're embarrassing. I think CJ Stroud has played embarrassing, pathetic football this year. I think he continues to turn the ball over. I think they have no explosiveness to that offense. They didn't score a point at home against the Baltimore Ravens defense that was suspect no more than 2 weeks ago on Christmas Day. Playoff implications, seedings in mind.
Embarrassed Beyonce, man.
I don't care if Stephon Diggs, is out for the year. I don't care that Tank Dell is out for the year. I don't care. You have a number 1 in Nico Collins. You have a back in Joe Mixon that's been carrying the hell out of the rock. So 2 points, man, is inexcusable. Getting blown out in your crib is inexcusable. And that's kind of what Christmas laid out for us.
Yeah. It was an embarrassing performance by the Houston Texans. CJ Stroud, it looks like something he needs to get to the offseason as soon as possible and figure out how the hell he's going to approach next season, because this season is just about cooked, man. He looks lost out there. And you look at the Baltimore Ravens, they come out, they just take care of business. To Daniel's point earlier about them being one of the bigger contenders in the NFL, it seems like they're on the right track. They're turning things. I don't want to say turning things around. They just had a tough part of the schedule that they struggled a little bit with, right? Yeah. And really, we're just talking about a home loss to the Eagles at the end of the day that really kind of made you wonder what was going on with Baltimore. At the end of the day, their defense is starting to step up. Even in that Eagles matchup, their defense still held it down pretty well against a very potent Eagles offense. So I'm even looking back, 2-3 weeks, it's kind of starting to come around. The weaker part of the team is starting to look stronger, and all green lights for the Ravens coming out of this one. But man, the Texans, dude, I guess it's not that bad. Like, CJ's like still young. It's his second year in the NFL. Like, you still have promise with that pair with Nico Collins, right? We'll see what Stephon Diggs is coming back from the injury. We're going to have to see what Tank Dell is, man. His leg has been torn apart in disgusting fashion. So who knows if he's ever even able to recover fully from that. There's going to be question marks, man. There's going to be question marks.
Agreed.
I have no interest in watching this team in the postseason at all.
No, and now is a team I was very excited for
in the NFL.
When you look around just as an NFL fan, aside from your own team, your own city, the Texans were a team coming into this year that I was incredibly excited for. And then you see them, they're going to end up winning their division. They're going to host the playoff game. So if you would have told me that before the season started, I would have said, yeah, that's right on par, except everything has looked wrong. Everything has looked bad. They haven't really beaten a solid team this year. So I don't know, man.
Yeah. Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. I think I'm still going to take CJ, but to be fair, he has more help down there in Houston than what Bryce
Young he's looked a lot better recently, man.
Ever since the benching and then coming back, he's looked a lot better. But
no,
CJ Stroud, I'll give him the benefit.
But he's definitely fallen from my grace. Speaking of falling from my grace, let's get into these updated top 10 power rankings, man. Sure. As we kick off or continue into week 17, 2 weeks remaining before the postseason. So as you can imagine, there are 14 total playoff teams. We have 10 teams. All of these teams are going to be in the playoff picture as of right now. Kicking us off at number 10, Scotty, I'm not going to give the respect. I'm being a little petty today. I'm not going to give the respect to Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders, because if you would have just taken your W quietly, if you would have just acknowledged silently that you beat an injured Eagles team without their quarterback and it took all this for to happen, et cetera, I would have given you the leadway and I would have put you inside the top 10. But with that said, again, it took everything like that to happen for you to win in the final 6 seconds at home in that football game. So you guys missed the mark. Coming in at number 10, though, I do have the LA Rams. I think everything you said earlier is a little bit true, man. This was a team that you were pretty high on to start the year. A team that, I think you predicted them to win this division, maybe not with all the San Francisco injuries, but nonetheless, it's looking like this is the way it's going to play out. And when you just talk about pedigree and weapons, you have a head coach and a quarterback that just won a Super Bowl together a few years ago. You have two, maybe a top 2-3 wide receiver tandem in the league in Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. You have a guy in Kyron Williams. Now, that defense is that defense, right? There are not a lot of notable names on that side of the ball for this team. So they're not going to go very far. But with that said, there are 2 games left. They're going to be a double-digit win team. More than likely, they're going to win that division. They're going to host a playoff game. And with some of those weapons, it's not a team you do necessarily want to travel to and have to see right now. Coming in at number 9, I have the LA Chargers, man. That win over Denver, it's the Denver Broncos. It's Bo Nix. I believe it was in LA, if my memory serves me correct. So you're at home. It shouldn't be this mind-altering thing for me. I had the Broncos at number 10 last week. I didn't have the Chargers inside the 10. They're a playoff team as of right now. Justin Herbert is playing his best ball of his career with less. Harbaugh being there bumps them up. They're able to run the ball with Dobbins and Edwards and whatever else they want to do down there right now. I had the Chargers at number 9. Now here's where it gets interesting. I had the Steelers at number 8. But I would lump these bottom 3 teams together, man, that they are outside of like this core that I have above them. The Steelers are fraudulent. Luckily for them, there's not really a ton of other teams I can throw ahead of them in this conversation. They are a playoff team. That's been clinched. They are a 10-win team with another game remaining. So they could win 11 games. That defense, we know everything about it. Pickens did miss some time. He came back. It didn't look great. We know this. But nonetheless, they don't have a lot of tough competition when you're talking about the likes of Bo Nix and the Broncos, CJ Stroud and the Texans, Michael Penix and the Falcons. Like, these are the other playoff teams I'm alluding to. I would still probably take the Steelers over them. And I'm just being petty towards the Commanders. So fuck off. At number 7, here's where we get into like my core 7, right? The teams that I think can actually, represent their team, their conference, or get to their conference championship. At number 7, I do have the Green Bay Packers. I ultimately believe in my heart of hearts that the Green Bay Packers are a better football team and more dangerous football team than the Minnesota Vikings. But as of right now, the 2 losses is 2 losses. And with the way that Sam Darnold's been playing, and Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, and Aaron Jones, and that defense with Brian Flores, I'm going to keep them there. So I have them at 6. The Packers and the Vikings are 6, 7. Both NFC North teams. I believe they played this week, correct?
The Vikings and the Packers?
Do they not? They don't play
so.
again, or they? Oh no, the Vikings. So. The Vikings beat them twice already, right?
No, they play. They host the Packers, and then they finish the season out with the Lions.
Yeah. So they play this week. We're gonna get to see it right now. But as of right now, I do think the Vikings are still a better team. The resume is what the resume is, and now we get into the top 5. I have the Baltimore Ravens still sitting at 5. There's not much more they can do besides hold a team to 2 points and absolutely thump them in their own crib on Christmas Day. Derrick Henry continuing to get going. Lamar keeps that MVP battle alive with Josh Allen. But I have them sitting at 5 because I think these 4 teams didn't really deserve anything to knock them down a peg too far. I had the Detroit Lions coming in at number 4, man. Those injuries are going to be costly, especially in the final week of the season. I think they could be costly. I don't know that they're going to win their division, Scotty. It's all going to come down to this week, right? If the Vikings can beat the Packers, there's a lot that has to still take place in 2 short weeks. I just don't know now with the Montgomery thing that they're going to be able to stay afloat and be one of those final 2 teams. So I have them at number 4. At number 3, I had the Buffalo Bills. Enough said. Josh Allen right now is the MVP favorite, as he probably should be. Continues to play good football, even though they had a pretty ugly win last week. But again, how am I not going to penalize the Eagles and some other teams for ugly wins, but then penalize the Buffalo Bills for an ugly win? Coming in at number 2, this pains me to say because this team was in my number 1 slot for the last month. But coming in at number 2, I do have our Philadelphia Eagles. They lost the game. The reason I don't drop them down below other teams that won games like the Bills and the Lions is, context matters. Jalen Hurts was not playing in this football game outside of the second drive. They were up 14-0 when Jalen Hurts exited. They do not lose this football game if Jalen Hurts is the quarterback, like he will be when things are going to matter. The Eagles are still a top 2 team and potentially the best team in football. You lost the game, and when you lost the game within the last 5 or 6 days, this team has 2 impressive, dominating wins over playoff teams in the AFC, beating up on the Texans last Saturday, and now beating up on the Steelers on the road this past Wednesday on Christmas Day. The Chiefs are 15-1. The AFC playoff picture goes through Arrowhead. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce look like themselves. They are a scary fucking team again. They are number 1 right now, Scotty.
Yeah, I feel it. I agree with a lot of your rankings there, but let me get into mine. I think mine, as I'm looking at them, I want to say they're in the order of who I would want to play the least in the playoffs. There are probably 2 exceptions on the list, but I'll start with number 10. I'm going with the Pittsburgh Steelers, man. They have been very unimpressive the last 3 weeks, obviously, on a 3-game losing streak. But the bigger thing for me is just the play against good competition. It really does worry you. I do worry that their run game particularly is like fraudulent. I worry that it's a fake good run team. Najee Harris doesn't impress me. Warren doesn't impress me. So I am worried for them as they get into the postseason, play tougher defenses. Are they going to be able to balance the offense and run the football? That's one worry for me. The other side of it is that the defense hasn't been able to kind of hold everything down the last couple games either, just to keep their team in the game. So they're having some issues on both ends. I don't think it's the end of the world for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but they're definitely not as good as I thought they were maybe 4 weeks ago. Number 9, I went with the LA Rams at 9-6. I think this team, you spoke on it pretty well, man. They're explosive offensively. That's the main thing. I think when you look at the Rams, the reason that they're dangerous in the postseason is that game against Buffalo a few weeks back. They're able to put up 45 plus points in a game. And when you get into those high numbers, anything can happen, right? So the fact that they're able to put up 40 plus points against one of the best teams in the NFL, I know it was a couple weeks back, and I know they've been up and down, but I'm just talking about a ceiling for this team at this point. And it looks like they're going to lock up their division. Got some big games over the next couple weeks to do so. Number 8, I did go with the Washington Commanders, man. It was, to be fair, it was impressive from a Jaden Daniels standpoint. I know Jalen Hurts was not on the field, but to be able to go out and produce in the fourth quarter at the rate that he did against this team, put up 22 points in the fourth quarter. Once again, I'm not trying to overhype him, but it was an impressive performance nonetheless. I don't think it's as impressive as Commanders fans are running away with it as, but it was still impressive. Number 7, and this is where I kind of talk about, I should say 8 and 9. That's kind of where I talk about the exception to who I would rather play, because I would rather play the Commanders in the postseason than the LA Rams personally. Number 7 is going to be the Green Bay Packers. I think this is the other exception for me. The Green Bay Packers could be higher on this list because they run the football really good, man. Mm-hmm. Josh Jacobs is starting to come around. He is really rolling to end the season here. And if they it sucks they can't get home field advantage, but the one thing you can say is that the weather will not dictate how they play. They live in Lambeau, so I think they're going to be fine anywhere. But you know how playoff football works. When you have a good run game, you do have a quarterback in Jordan Love who can get things done. So I do like the Green Bay Packers at 11-4. Number 6, I went with the Baltimore Ravens. They're really starting to get going. King Henry's starting to really get going. As Daniel mentioned, their defense is really what's starting to turn around and make the Ravens look a little bit more how they're supposed to this season. And if the defense can continue to play like they've been playing, I know it's the Texans. They've been struggling anyways. But if the Ravens can continue to have decent play on that side of things, they should be really tough in the postseason. The Minnesota Vikings, that's what I mean by exception. I think I would be more afraid to play the Baltimore Ravens and the Green Bay Packers than I would be afraid to play the Minnesota Vikings.
Resumes are resumes.
Resumes are resumes. They're getting W's. And until we see Sam Darnold have a meltdown, I can't sit here and say Sam Darnold's having a meltdown or going to have a meltdown. So just trying to be a little bit more fair to them as they start to round the season out with just 2 losses, man. It's impressive nonetheless. Number 4, I went with the Buffalo Bills at 12-3. Nothing against them versus these other 3 teams I have ahead. It's just kind of where I see them at this point. I would probably take all 3 of the teams I have ahead of them in a postseason match, whether it's the Super Bowl, AFC, whatever it may be. I would probably take these 3 teams that are ahead of them over them. The 3 teams being number 3, I do have the Philadelphia Eagles right here, and this is more of like, you're looking at the Eagles versus the Lions specifically with these 2 spots, and it's more just recency bias when you have to take into account the Lions coming up.
Win.
They beat the Bears, right? They take care of them. Jared Goff has a great game, 3 touchdowns, 300 passing yards. Jahmyr Gibbs goes over 100 rushing yards. They looked good, right, this week. So I give them the benefit of the doubt on a week where Jalen got injured and the Eagles took an L. I think this is just 2 really good teams So when you're picking, it's going to get a little tedious when you're picking between them. And then KC at number 1, man, 15-1.
Yeah,
I would say it's just the resume, but it's not, man. It's the way they've looked the last couple of weeks as well. It's Patrick Mahomes playing the best that he's played all season right now. Travis Kelce playing the best all season playing the best right now that he has all season. And their defense, man. Their defense has been steady all year. So yeah, Kansas City is that juggernaut. They are the defending back-to-back champions.
It's all the background knowledge. Exactly. It's all the background knowledge we already have on this team, meaning they are the back-to-back Super Bowl champions. We're not just pulling shit out of our ass talking like, well, this team's 15-1, so they have to go number 1. No, it's everything combined. They didn't look good for the first 10, 12 weeks of the season, but they just kept winning games, and they kept winning games. We kept waiting for that downfall. We kept waiting for that domino to just start, and it's not happening. And not only is it not happening, it's going the complete other direction right now. They're dominant right now, and that's the most annoying part. The Eagles thing, man, I do agree with you. And I see Martian's comment, we're higher than the Bills. I take almost nothing from the loss on Sunday.
Yeah.
Almost nothing.
I feel that. I do.
And it's not like, we're talking about, you mentioned how the Lions have injuries, but yet you're just disregarding the Jalen. Lions have season-ending injuries. Jalen Hurts is in concussion protocol. That means Jalen Hurts is going to be back, if not this week, next week, and he's going to play in the postseason. So it's not the same at all. Again, I take very little from the loss. And the fact that the Eagles, didn't lose by, 14. The fact that it took 6 seconds, the final 6 seconds for them to lose the game, ultimately is what stands out to me. Because what if that doesn't happen and they win? And I know it's woulda, coulda, shoulda, and it's not a win, it's a loss. But if they win that game with Kenny Pickett taking over for Jalen Hurts in Washington, the fucking storyline is so far the other direction about how this team is so complete and so deep and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And 6 seconds changed all of that, which is the frustrating part of it all. The Chiefs jumped them for me. No other team is jumping them for me for the time being. But we'll see this Sunday when they have an opportunity to clinch the NFC East at home at the Link against their rival in the Cowboys. No CeeDee Lamb, that was reported there. He's been shut down for the season by Dallas. So definitely a game we're going to be talking about tomorrow and over the weekend, of course. We got a fantasy football question. Zach Charbonnet or Bucky Irving this week, Scotty?
Got the Bears, and who is Bucky Irving playing? Who are the Bucks playing?
Tampa, let's see. At home against Carolina. I mean, the thing with Charbonnet is Kenneth Walker's on the IR. They're going to feature him, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's going to be the guy that gets the bulk of the carries, whereas Bucky Irving's in that kind of like tandem or trio they've been working with down in Tampa. But you're talking about having a Sunday game versus a Thursday game in the fantasy football playoffs or championship. You're talking about the team being home versus on the road. You're talking about playing one of the worst teams in the football against a decent defense in the Bears. So I was going to say I would start Zach Charbonnet tonight, but I hate playing guys on Thursday night in the fantasy football playoffs.
I feel that. I do feel that as well. I will say, man, looking at Charbonnet not going to look at the last game because I do believe Kenneth Walker was back for that. He only got 1 carry in that game against Minnesota, but against Green Bay, against Arizona, Arizona more specifically, 22 carries, 134 yards. He also had 7 receptions, 59 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So that was the game where he got the full boatload. They got to play with a lead for a little bit, and he got, his dutiful carries. The very next week, you were in a blowout against Green Bay in, I believe it was in Seattle. No, that was at Seattle. Yeah. But nonetheless, 8 carries, 54 yards. He had a touchdown in that one, along with 1 reception for 12 yards. So even on the lower end of him starting, he still found the end zone. Probably ended up with what?
And you just
maybe 10 to 15
tonight. That's my thing. So and it's on the road. Irvin, it's cold in Chicago. It's Geno. I would guess Zach Charbonnet gets 20 plus carries tonight.
Yeah.
That's what I would guess.
He's usually good for a couple of receptions.
He might find the end zone off of that.
Yeah. Yeah, Bucky Irvin, he is good though. I have seen him go off a couple times this year. It's just like what you said with the trio, and he's a little banged up. He's been on and off the injury report. So, are they really going to give him just a boatload of the work? But they're in a winner, die situation.
They need to win. But on the other side, same thing as Seattle. Seattle needs to win to try to remain in the playoffs.
I would go with Sharks. I agree. I would go with
Zach Charbonnet as well tonight, man. But speaking of that, let's wrap up the show by looking at this game tonight. You got the 8-7 Seahawks, 5-1 on the road, surprisingly.
Interesting.
That means that 6 of their losses have come at home this year with the 12th man. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. The Bears, 4-11 on the year. All 4 wins coming at home in Chicago. Something else to keep an eye on. 5-point spread. It opened at 3.5. It's jumped up to 5. The totals opened at 42.5. It's down to 41.5. Bears plus 190. Home underdogs on the money line. Caleb Williams, Geno Smith. What do you like in this game, Scotty? I know we got a couple props leaning the Chicago Bears way, specifically that quarterback. We were kind of hoping to go with the Bears spread, but maybe the total's grabbing us. With about 2 hours before kickoff, where are we leaning in terms of our best bets tonight?
Yeah, this game is I'm trying to choose my words wisely here. I was going to say interesting. It is interesting from a betting standpoint because these are two teams that do you really know what they are? The Bears are obviously a bad team. They're 4-11. They've lost 9 straight. But I mean, they still have names out there on the outside, right? They can score some points. You would think. They are at home. You presented those numbers already. I think on the other side, though, the reason that I was kind of leaning the Bears' way is just because Seattle just isn't that good. And I think on the other side of the ball, you look at their defense, it's not that good to say shut down the Caleb Williams-led Bears offense tonight, in my opinion, at home. And Geno is just so up and down, man. You just really don't know what you're going to get from him. Sometimes he plays some really excellent ball. And if he's on his shit tonight, yeah, they should win this game. They should probably even win it by more than 5 if he's on his game tonight. But I just have no guarantees that he will be, even on the national spotlight, man. A lot of these games where we've gotten to see the Seattle Seahawks on Showcase, they've came out and laid an egg, man. I'm thinking back to that Green Bay game in Seattle. You're at home. You have a big chance to make a statement heading into the postseason. Not even just heading into the postseason, but you needed the win. You're 1 game back of the Rams now. You need to rack up W's or it's over for you. It might be over for them anyways, because I don't think they're better than the Rams, man. I think the Rams will take care of business. But
I agree.
They still are technically playing for something. They still have a chance. I just don't trust them. I really don't. I think ultimately, man, I think I'm leaning the total over the spread just because if the Bears were to cover the spread, I think it's going to be in a 24-21 type of game. You know what I mean? I think both of these teams will get into the 20s tonight. I think we will see a little bit of scoring. I do want to shout out my man Swagman 95 on X. That's my guy from way back, Sam Wagman. He did put out a prop that I absolutely loved for tonight. Caleb Williams, 2+ passing TDs in this game. It's at plus 155. He laid out the numbers on X. You can go find him. Caleb has thrown 2+ TDs in 4 out of his last 5 games. The Seahawks have given up 2+ passing TDs in 4 straight. So it lines up perfectly. Usually when that happens, you know how it goes. But I'm going to trust the numbers. I'm going to trust the trends. And I'm going to ride with that one tonight. But I do like the, 41.5 now?
Yeah, I'm probably just going to alt it to 41 and not get killed with the hook. You ever find yourself curious how, these sports books, have these subtle little, differences and glitches and how they can mess these up? So, if you go on DraftKings right now, I just went on. Caleb Williams, if you go to the over-under section, his over-under 1.5, that's what it said at, is plus 140. If you go to alt passing touchdowns and you select 2+, it's plus 150. How's How's it higher? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how these little glitches or differences happen, but it's literally no difference over 1.5 or 2+, and there is a 0.10 whatever difference in
which
separating.
Can make a big difference if you put enough money on it.
I'll gladly take the +1.
Like I'm gonna take it for sure. Yeah. If you like Caleb touchdowns, maybe you like Keenan Allen to score one as well. He's who I view as their favorite target in the end zone, in the red zone area. So he was plus 200 or more when I last looked at him. And then the other player prop that I do like is DK over 59.5 receiving yards. I think he could have just a couple big catches tonight. That's why I like the yards over the receptions.
I'm in, man. But I think the over is going to be our
overall. That's the big one.
Turf Talk play. Over 41. I think it's at -120, -125 on DraftKings right now. So if you want to all it and not get killed with the hook at 41.5, that's the way I normally go and just buy that half a point. Guys, that is going to do it for this Thursday edition of Turf Talk. We will be live tomorrow afternoon on the DSM Philly YouTube channel. So make sure to subscribe. We're at 160 subs now. Make sure to keep ticking that up. Let's get to our first 200 here soon as the Eagles approach the playoffs. And if so, again, if you guys can help us get there, we will do a Eagles playoff giveaway if we reach 200 subs by then. So make sure to tap in, subscribe, share with your friends, family, social media, any other sports and Philly fans that you know of. For myself, for Scotty, for DSM, don't forget to smash that subscribe and follow button and have a great rest of your Thursday night.